Most people seek the path of least resistance in most things. And it is not easy to constantly be going against the grain. A couple months ago, people were quite literally celebrating and ecstatic because it hit 80,000, and now people are freaking out because it hit 80,000, and we're talking about the space of about 4 months. But X also created a crack in the dam, which forced, via game theory, it forced all the other social media networks to become less censorious.
Yep. And one tip, never challenge this man on the Nintendo Wii because he's gonna demolish you. He's gonna demolish you. Zuby.
What's good, bro?
Welcome to the Maybach.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Last time we had a chat, by the way, on camera, because we see each other quite a lot. You're actually one of my favorite people in Dubai.
Oh, I'm honored.
Bitcoin was $26,000. Can you believe it?
Okay, yeah. And now everyone's panicking because it's crashed to 80 something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Times. People are so short term in their thinking, and most people don't know how to manage their emotions. I understand it. I have emotions too, despite the rumors that I'm a robot. I am actually human.
Yeah, there was a rumor on actually you are an AI.
People get wrecked all the time, not just in markets, but people get wrecked just every which way in life because they can't control their emotions. And it's kind of funny to see that. I mean, a couple months ago, people were quite literally celebrating and ecstatic because it hit 80,000, and now people are freaking out because it hit 80,000, and we're talking about the space of about 4 months, 3-4 months. Yeah.
Then, of course, since that day to now, a lot has happened. We have now the Trumps in power. Do you knew they would have won?
I thought Trump was going to win. Yeah, I think I have that on record on a couple of podcasts saying I think Trump is going to win as long as there are no shenanigans and there's no insane black swan event. In fact, there was a black swan event, but I think it worked in his favor, and that was the assassination attempt. In fact, there were two, but obviously one of them was very public. He actually got hit in the ear, and one of his supporters died, RIP to him. And I think that actually sealed it for him. I think that 1 to 2 inch difference of him turning the head, I think had he been killed, which was obviously what the goal was, we would be in a very different world right now. And I say that not even being in America or living in America. I don't know what timeline we'd be living in, but things would be very different, particularly in the USA, but I think it would have real global repercussions as well.
We've seen everything so far. We've seen Trump launching 2 million coin, Trump and Melania, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, anything outside Bitcoin, people are just gambling, man. And if people want to gamble, then feel free to gamble. I'm a Bitcoin guy. I'm not a crypto guy at this stage. Getting in 2017 and getting drawn into all the hype with the ICOs and all that kind of stuff. I remember that time well. I haven't always been as disciplined in that sense or as knowledgeable as I am now, but Bitcoin just eats everything. It eats all the other cryptos, and it's going to eat a lot of real world assets in these next coming decades. So again, I don't give financial advice. People can do what they want with their own money and with their own time and with their own effort. But like just Bitcoin, just consolidate in Bitcoin and be patient and zoom out, and I think you'll be okay. Not financial advice.
I completely agree. That's the play. But obviously, of course, greed comes in, right? Because 50% a year on average is not enough. You want more gains.
What are people comparing to? What are people comparing to? This is the problem, man. I think this is one of the I love obviously I love Bitcoin, but the fact that people are so short-term focused that they think that, I mean, what other market or investment, traditionally getting a 5 to 10% return on your portfolio per year was considered very good. It still is considered very good amongst 99% of the population. But now people are so hyped up that like a 50% on average annual return, people think that that's not enough and that they need to start gambling and rugging and scamming and doing all sorts of other crazy stuff. Look, I understand human emotions, and human beings are always going to human, but I don't think it's wise. And it's not just that it's not wise, it actually tends to be, unless someone is very lucky, it's actually counterproductive towards the goal, because you're talking about the emotion of greed. And if someone's goal even is just, okay, I want to make more money, then in the vast majority of cases, like I said, unless you get lucky, you are still in that case better off just buying Bitcoin. Because if you actually measure, like if you stop focusing on dollars or pounds and fiat, and you compare the performance even of all, like take the top 100 cryptos or top 500 or whatever, and you compare their performance denominated in Bitcoin,
yep.
You'll see that it destroys almost everything. There have been a handful that have outperformed it in the relatively short time frame, but yeah, there's other ones that cool, like it looks like they've gone up in dollar value, and they have, but yeah, you just compare it to Bitcoin and you're like, oh, okay, this is painting a very different picture.
My money is Bitcoin. That's my store of wealth, right?
Smart man.
Whenever I buy something, I'm thinking how much it's going to cost me in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
People see Bitcoin doing maybe like a 20% pump, and they see alts, because they don't measure them against Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They see they have a major return compared to Bitcoin, so they want to go in there because they think, oh, Bitcoin is already done. It's already there.
No.
Whether if I gamble on a coin, which is maybe lower in the market cap in the ranking, I can make more money.
It's kind of interesting with ETH because, I mean, if you go back to around 2017, 2018, one ETH, it was about 10 ETH to one Bitcoin. Now it's about 45 ETH, 40 ETH to one Bitcoin. And that's the second highest performing, that's the second biggest market cap crypto, is Ethereum. That's the one where a lot of people think, okay, well, if Bitcoin is gold, that one is the silver. And it's gigantically lost value. So if you bought ETH and you bought Bitcoin in 2017 and you just held them, like your ETH has just lost a huge, like what's that, 75% or so of its value against Bitcoin. So again, better off, you would have been better off just buying Bitcoin and chilling. Yeah, I think everyone needs to, I don't know, like I say, people can do whatever the heck they want. I don't care, it's their money. Just don't scam people. And but yeah, when you think about it and you just look at it, and even if you just look at the past and you denominate in the right currency, aka BTC, then you'll just see that you can just hold it and chill. I think it's too boring for a lot of people. I think I get it, like being an investor, you always want to feel like you always have to be doing something, like you want to be active, not just passive. And the more active you get, oftentimes the more you get wrecked. Again, occasionally you'll catch some huge pump and you'll make a quick flip. But even then, in most cases, people are so emotional they won't sell.
Yep.
So, so you get the paper gains, and it looks like, oh wow, I did a 10x, and then you just ride it back down 90%.
Take 3 shots and not profits.
Exactly, it happens. It's happened to the best of us. I've done that before in the past.
Same.
But yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes people need to stick their hand in the fire and get personally burned for them to know not to stick their hand in the fire. But each to their own. I'm a fan of freedom.
It is because people have gone, I mean, if you think about it, Bitcoin is a teenager still, right?
Yeah.
And some people like you and me have gone in prior to this bull market, and few before, but other people maybe are new into this asset, and they have to pay the tuition, they have to learn the lessons. Do you think this is why they are gambling into coins, or they think by buying like a cat who goes to the moon meme, they're gonna make millions? Do they have to go through the experience of the cycles, or do you think it's like a mindset of society where everything has to be fast and shortcuts and people don't want to work for?
Yeah, I think that it's the natural human state and default for most people, not all people, but most people will take the path of least resistance in most things. Doesn't matter what it is. It's easier to not, everyone knows exercise is good, but why don't most people exercise regularly? Only a small percentage of the population works out regularly, even though everyone knows working out is good. It's because it's easier not, at least short term, it's easier not to work out than it is to work out. It's easier to eat junk food and fast food and whatever's convenient and whatever's delicious than it is to monitor your diet and your nutrition and so on. So more people are going to do the former than do the latter. It's easier to just spend whatever money you're making and not save and not invest than it is to be diligent and to save and invest. So therefore, most people have no investments, even if they can afford it. I'm not just talking about people who couldn't afford it, but most people won't do it. So anything, with almost everything, I struggle to think of exceptions. I'm sure there's a few, but with most things, people will take what they perceive to be the path of least resistance, and they're always going to be looking for shortcuts. And I think a great sign of, I don't know if it's intelligence or wisdom, is being able to delineate the difference between an opportunity and a scam or a con. There are people who are so skeptical and so cynical that they think every opportunity is a scam. And so they stay struggling in many cases, or they miss out on massive opportunities because they think everything is a scam. They're so skeptical. They're so, these are the people who, maybe you've been trying to tell them about Bitcoin for a decade, and they're just like, oh, it's a scam, right? Like they haven't read anything about it. They haven't, they just spent 3 minutes and they just think, right? So they've missed a gigantic opportunity because they just think everything is a scam. But then there are other people who are too gullible and who are too, what's the right word I'm looking for? Credulous, where they're easy to scam because
they believe in everything.
Yes, they just believe it, and they get excited and they're emotional, and they don't do their due diligence. They don't really think about it, and those are people who get hustled. And it happens all the time. It happens through, gosh, we're not just talking about cryptocurrency here. We're just talking about everything. We're talking about information. We're talking about social issues. We're talking about politics, right? Things where you can just kind of wave a wand in front of someone's face and tell them what to think, what to believe, and even what to be emotional about. And boom, they just switch and they're on this narrative. And then you can wave the wand again and you can turn them in this direction, wave the wand again, they go in this direction, tell them to be afraid of this, they're afraid of this, tell them to hate that person, they'll hate that person. Yeah, it's worrying. And we all have this to a degree, right? We're all human beings. So nobody is a perfectly rational actor who just makes perfectly, you wouldn't even want to be that, because then you're like a robot, right? Mm-hmm. Emotions do matter. You wouldn't actually want to be a human being, and you probably wouldn't want to be friends with a human being or family members with a human being who is purely a 100% rational and logical, and there's no emotion, right? That would be callous. That would be borderline sociopathic. But at the same time, it can't just be, if you're just someone who's always led by your feelings and you just do whatever you feel at any moment in time, especially as a grown man, then yeah, you're going to get wrecked in all sorts of ways, and you're going to be taken advantage of, and you will run the risk of being harmed. You'll run the risk of harming other people, because we get angry, we get frustrated, we get people have all sorts of emotions. You don't immediately just act on it. Just whatever you feel, you do. Whatever you feel, you say. That's just like another form of being an NPC. It's not a good way to be.
I've seen you posted a video next today, which was crazy. I don't even know what's called. Basically going on the fact that men should compete with women
still,
because if we moan about it, we are implying that women are not strong enough. And I'm like, how do you even go there? Do you think X is helping, or not just X specifically, but or decentralized information?
I mean, X is definitely helping. There's no question about it. I mean, if you look at where social media and media in general was, let's say 2020, well, anywhere from any time between certainly 2015 and I'd say about 2022, we have a massive improvement now. There's far less cancellation going on. There's more free flow of information. There's less censorship. All of that, not just across X, but X also created a crack in the dam, which forced, via game theory, it forced all the other social media networks to become less censorious and to be more reasonable in terms of the free flow of information. So yeah, X is huge. But look, human nature is very difficult to overcome, and we have billions of people on this planet, and I love humanity. I get frustrated by, as much as I love people, I also get frustrated by people all the time. I don't think I'm unique in that regard. And with what I do and through my channels, I have lots of goals and aspirations, and I'm very clear on what my mission and vision is, to inspire and empower people through my words. But overcoming human nature is, in a complete sense, I think it's impossible. And again, you wouldn't want to, because human nature is not, it's not all good and it's not all bad. It's a combination. We are autonomous beings, and I believe we have free will, and each of us as individuals, minute to minute, day to day, week to week, we are making thousands of different choices, and we can choose how we act. And even with that said, even the most disciplined among us, I'm certainly more disciplined than the average person, but even then, every single day, every single hour, I have to consciously make decisions, and I don't always make the best decisions. I don't even always make the best decision for myself. Sometimes you can even do that whilst knowing it, right? You might, maybe you've just eaten a good meal and you're full, you don't need any more food, but ooh, they bring out a dessert tray, and you know, I'm not hungry, I don't need this, it's not good for me, it's gonna spike my blood sugar, I might, like, you know,
I'm gonna have to work hard.
some of it's gonna say, yeah, right, like, yeah, but you know what? Short-term me is overriding long-term me, and I'm gonna pig out on that dessert. You know, that's something that's low consequence, but there can be higher consequence examples as well. And you know, I just think I always say people are going to people, and the majority is always going to be the majority, and you cannot wake up the majority in most cases. Like, people are going to go along with whatever is the norm. The majority will do whatever the majority are doing. If most people are going that way, most people will go that way. Most people are going this way, most people will go that way. Some of it is just self-preservation. People don't want to stand out. People don't want to stick their head above the parapet. People don't want to be canceled. They don't want to be ostracized. One of the greatest fears amongst adults, next to the fear of death, is fear of public speaking. It's actually called, I believe it's called glossophobia. Now, why are people afraid of public speaking? It's not because they're afraid of speaking. We all speak every day. There's nothing why would you be afraid of speaking? You're probably also not even afraid of people, because if you're in a crowd or in an audience, most people are happy to be there, they're comfortable. But if you have to stand up in front of them and everyone's attention is turned to you and you're speaking, what people are afraid of is they're afraid of being judged by others. They're afraid of standing out in a way that might be negative. They're afraid of making an error or looking stupid, especially in front of other people. They're afraid of criticism. They're afraid of negative feedback. And we all have that within us to varying degrees. It's something that you can train to get better at so that you feel more confident in those situations. But I'm just bringing up that point to bring home just how strong our biological wiring is. And the biological wiring is a beautiful thing that leads to all the positives that human beings are capable of. Love, generosity, kindness, altruism, charity, all the wonderful things that we're capable of, but also all the horrible things and sinful things that we are capable of. It comes from the same biological wiring. And I think from childhood until adulthood, and then all throughout your adulthood, one of your goals as a grown man or as a grown woman should be to do your best to master yourself in as many different of these avenues as possible. And there's a lot of them, and none of us are ever going to fulfill our entire potential. But I think as long as you are trying to, and day to day you're taking steps to try to fulfill your potential in different areas, I think number one, you're going to be you're going to be a happy and a busy and an occupied person. But you're also going to be someone who's capable, and over time you're going to be competent, and with competence comes confidence. And if you do that and you treat other people well, more people are going to be, you're going to become a magnet for good people. That's going to radiate out to others, and they're going to find you, and they're going to want to be, everyone wants to be around somebody who is like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
it's interesting. One of the things that some of the people I used to hang out with back in the days when I was back in Lake Como or maybe in London, which is supposed to be an insult, but I think it's one of the most wonderful compliments I ever received, which basically says, I wish you could see yourself back in like 10, 15, 20 years ago, talking to you now and see how different you are. Well, but thank God that I'm different. That means I've gone somewhere. And imagine how depressing would it be if I would be the same person.
Talking to a 20-year-old Mauricio, and you're
right?
Exactly the same mindset, same knowledge,
crazy,
same attitude.
And that means I would have wasted 20 years.
For real.
You said something super interesting. You said, I wish everyone would experience for at least a couple of days to have over 1 million followers.
Influence is a strange beast, and in its extreme form, you could call extreme fame, extreme popularity, fame or celebrity or something like that. And there's people who have a million times the level of fame or notoriety than I do. But it's an odd thing. I don't think it's ever something I've really spoken about much publicly, because what even is fame? Fame just means that like a lot of people know who you are, essentially. Maybe fame has a positive connotation and infamy has a negative connotation, but it's kind of strange that human beings are wired to treat people differently depending on how many other people know who they are. That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, that's strange.
Why should I deserve a different treatment?
Yeah, I guess it's a form of social proof. I guess in most cases, people who have some level of fame, it also means that they have, at least it should mean that they have excelled in some
areas,
field, right? Whether it's business or sports or arts or music or something like that. But we live in a strange world where normal people, quote unquote, can achieve some degree of fame or notoriety due to social media and the internet without having a particular skill set or knowledge base or something like that traditionally may have granted fame. And I don't know, I think it's just fascinating how, both in the good and the bad, how people treat you differently. That's something I've definitely noticed over the last 6 years in particular, as my audience has grown, I don't know, but by several factors of 10. Maybe my audience has grown by about, overall, maybe a factor of about 30 or 40 in the past 6 years, if I'm gauging that by my online following. And you learn a lot with it.
How's Dubai treating you? Because it's been a while now since you moved.
Yeah, I've been here about a year now. I love Dubai, man. It's a great city. I think it's one of the best cities in the world. I'm happy to be here.
How are you coping with summer? Because we're about to enter the so-called hot zone,
the
right?
heat wave. Yeah, it's fine, man. I grew up with it. I lived in Saudi for 20 years. It's no different. I'm not planning to spend the sort of hottest portion of the summer here. I'm going to travel during that time. But I love Dubai. It's a great city, and it's such a fantastic travel hub as well, because it also means if you're so connected to the rest of the world, whether you want to go east, you want to go west, there's direct flights to most major cities. Certainly all the ones that I would want to go to, there's direct flights to almost all of them. I tend to view distances in terms of hours rather than like miles or kilometers. So as far as I'm concerned, London is 7 hours away.
Yep.
I don't know how many thousands of miles it is off the top of my head, but it's 7 hours.
7 hours away.
Maybe including airport nonsense time, maybe it's
a little bit more.
9 or 10.
Yeah. You travel a lot. I've seen you recorded like a maniac.
Yeah, I chilled out a little bit over the last few months.
I'm glad, because I could see you everywhere with a lot of cool people, by the way. So make sure to follow Zuby if you haven't. I'll link, of course, in the description, your channel.
At Zuby Music.
Exactly. I do love summer because everyone goes away, so there's no traffic.
Yep.
You can go in any restaurants you want, no reservation needed. Everything is much easier. I don't know now, because I think ever since I moved here, so 5 years ago almost, there's been a lot of people moving in Dubai, so the population is increased drastically. So maybe summer is not going to be as empty as I remember it, but still it will be much easier than probably December or peak, when everyone comes here to escape the cold, per se. I'm expecting, I don't know if you agree, but I'm expecting a lot coming out. I'm sure you've seen the UAE has bought 400 millions in Bitcoin because they wanted to start maybe even front-running the US for the strategic reserve, whatever you want to label it. So I'm expecting a lot of legislations in favor of crypto, maybe stable coins coming through, and some banks in the UAE are looking into it. So I'm expecting stable coins to play, in a much broader role, even from the US itself. I think the Trumps are going to push extremely hard on the stable coins. If you think about it, it's going to allow them to extend the dollar dominance across the planet.
Yeah, I think the UAE is a very forward-looking country. It's an interesting nation. I think all the Gulf countries are interesting because they're very conservative in some ways and actually very progressive in other ones. And I think due to their governance structure and due to the fact that they have to compete for people in a way that most nations don't, they are going to certainly look into and perhaps commit to and execute policies that are beneficial in that way. I think if they see it as being a net positive for their nation and something that's going to make them a more attractive destination, both for people who want to live here and also for travelers and tourists, then they'll probably do it as long as it's aligned with their values. And I think something like what you mentioned there sounds like, I mean, unless there's a good reason for them not to, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, after all, you can see this was brought up in 50 years, more or less. We had nothing around us, and it's so beautiful what they managed to accomplish. And it's funny how much backlash. I'm sure you probably had your share.
Come on. I don't think there's like an opinion I hold that I haven't had backlash, man. Like, you know, I can also say, like, I've never lost a friend over politics. I lost no friends over my stance during the pandemic, or scamdemic as I call it.
Yeah, or plandemic.
No, I don't. No, all my friends have been very positive about this front, but I think I'm rather judicious with
who you spend time with.
Yeah, I have lots of acquaintances. I have a huge amount of acquaintances, but when it comes to like my real circle and people I consider friends, then it's not even a small number. Like, I have more friends than the average person does, partly because I've grown up and lived in so many places and traveled so much and gone to these different schools and everything. But no, man, they're solid. Look, I think on a wider perspective, though, anybody who criticizes you, or let alone insults you, or wants to attack you or bring you down for doing something, for making a positive change in your life, whether that is fitness, whether that's career, whether that's relational, whatever it is, people who have something bad to say when you put yourself in a better position, those are not people you want around you. Those people are more dangerous than actual enemies. Far more dangerous, in my opinion. Those are not people you want around. So I think maybe that's been a secret blessing.
Guys.
Seriously, I mean, no, like you see it though. I mean, you see it, for example, when people get in shape. You have someone who used to be a man or a woman who used to be very overweight, and then they finally put in the work and the effort and they get in good shape. Pay attention to who celebrates and encourages them, and pay attention to who criticizes or discourages them. They should pay attention to that, because it tells them all that they need to know. If you used to have some type of, there's people who used to have maybe they're like addictions or something like that, substance abuse issues or alcohol issues or whatever, and then they finally managed to overcome it and, you know, win that battle. There are going to be people from their past who are going to attack them, insult them, criticize them, say, oh, you think you're better than us now, or whatever. Those are the people it's good to leave those people behind. I'm glad I've never had to do that in my own life. I thank God for that. Yep. But it's something that I've observed with other people, and it's not it speaks for itself.
One of my opportunities, I don't want to say issues, but one of the things that I faced by moving so much and so quick is I couldn't plant the roots deep enough.
Yeah.
So I was bouncing between countries. I was doing mainly solely by myself. So I was forced to make connections. But besides the few that I have, and I saved them because they are good friends, the majority was like a temporary exchange as opposed to a friendship. And interesting enough, I used to be a heavy smoker, cigarettes, nicotine. I smoked since I was basically 12, all the way till, I don't know, 12 years ago. I don't even remember when I quit. And interesting, like you said, the people they gave me most difficulties were people that I used to smoke with.
Of course.
Because I was reminding them every day they could also quit.
It's like holding a mirror up to people.
Exactly.
It's holding a mirror up to people. Especially because, do you know what happens when you do that is it's not just you're holding up a mirror, you are taking away their excuse. Because a lot of people who engage in bad habits or who do negative things, they like to run under, they always like to have an excuse or an alibi, right? Whether this is, oh, well, I came from this background, or this, or whatever the case may be. So when someone who is similar to them in terms of, let's say, their background or their social class or their upbringing with their parents or whatever kind of traumas or issues they went through, when someone who's from that similar background goes and succeeds or overcomes this obstacle,
you're canceling their excuses.
You're canceling, yes, exactly. You're nullifying the power of their ability to go, oh, well, you know, my dad left when I was a kid, or my mom treated me badly, or my genetics, right? I'm big boned or whatever, right? Whatever the case may be. So I think that's part of why it bothers some people. But again, I just think all these things are great filters. I think one of the blessings we've had in the last several years actually is I think we've been given a lot of different filters. I think due to so many things that have happened in terms of society, in terms of culture, in terms of politics, it's giving you filters to see who's really with you and who's not, who you can trust and who you can't, who will turn on you on a dime and who will not, who will support you. When stuff gets difficult, when the herd starts moving in this direction, people know, not just in terms of their close circle, but even the people they may follow and pay attention to online. You know, if there's look at the 2020 to 2022 period, the whole C-19 situation, okay? Everyone showed their cards. So you already know if that happens again, who you can count on.
Oh yeah.
And who you cannot. Who, if that magic wand is waved and they're told, hey, attack that person or those people, boom, they're going to switch on you. They're going to go with what the person on the TV is telling them, the person on the laptop is telling them, the politician is telling them, and they're going to switch on you. It doesn't matter if you're friends, their family, their whatever. And it's bitter to know that, but it's good to know it. So, and then you know the people who won't. You know the people who will stand by you and who will uphold your rights and who will speak on your behalf and who will fight for you, even if maybe you have a different perspective or you make different choices. You know the people who are going to say, hey, you know what, like your people should be able to make their choices with that. And it shouldn't just be some top-down mandate, and we shouldn't be discriminating against people or segregating or whatever based on whatever goofiness or foolishness that the TV or politicians have told people to. So I think all of these things are blessings. I feel like I've never been so aware, so cognizant of where different people stand and who I can trust and to what degree. Yeah. Who I'd be okay to be in a foxhole with and who I'm like, nope, that person will, if they're told to. They might be being, it might seem okay now, but they got that authoritarian in them, and they're going to try to, stick that mandate on me and turn those guns against me. So I'm aware of it. Dude, I'm so aware of it that it's one of the things that made me leave my country. When I left the UK in 2021, it was largely because of all the stuff that we are discussing. It wasn't predominantly about taxes. It's a byproduct, but I didn't like the way I just saw the reality of things, and I felt forced to make a certain decision.
Yeah, and I like that. I think in 2025, I mean, we clearly have done it before, but in 2025, I think you have to make a decision and say, hey, I do want to live where they treat me the best.
Yes.
I want to live with people around me that I choose. You have to understand, how can I trust someone? Well, you have to trust them. Yeah. Before, otherwise how can you? And like you said, then by doing so you will figure it out, who can you trust again, because they say fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me.
Real.
I look up to you, one of my favorite people in Dubai. Whenever I can spend time with you, I do.
I'm honored, man. Thank you.
The list in my book is really small because who do you go out with, you become.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, both positive and negative.
Exactly. Yeah. And one tip, never challenge this man on the Nintendo Wii because he's gonna demolish you. He's gonna demolish you. Damn, man. I need to practice more on that one. That's for sure. But why do you think people blindly, this is something I've gone back and forth on this.
Okay.
Why do you think people have this thing through government, medicine and farmers, and they basically blindly trust everything? They don't even put 2 minutes into, for example, you are on the third book right now. I think you finished it, but I don't know if I can say it.
Okay. Yeah, mostly, but yeah, I can't announce anything yet.
Okay, publicly. Perfect. And so you have a ton of knowledge on many other things, also in fitness, and you have these people, man, these whatever keyboard warrior, whatever you want to label them, and they think it's okay to be fat and to be quote unhealthy. And now we are in that stage where not only people trust blindly anything that the government says, but they don't even question when something is, they can't say it because it's not diverse or whatever, the crap, the woke culture.
I feel like it's the same answer to what you asked me before. Most people seek the path of least resistance in most things. And it is not easy to constantly be going against the grain. If you're in a crowd and the crowd is moving this way, it's not easy to walk in the opposite. It's physically not even easy to walk in the other direction. It's much easier to swim downstream than to swim upstream. We were talking crypto earlier in markets. It's easier to trade in the direction
of the asset
than of the crowd than in the opposite. If everyone else is panicking and dumping Bitcoin or shares or bonds or whatever it is, it feels natural. Okay, I should do the same. To then be the person who's like, oh no, I'm going to be a contrarian. I'm going to be buying while other people are dumping, or I'm going to be selling while other people are euphoric. We know even statistically in every single market, most people do what most people do. Most people don't want. I'm not a naturally confrontational person. I'm not naturally like, oh, I don't always want to be arguing and getting in battles with people and so on. And
it's much easier to go along.
Yeah, it's easier to go along and get along, and we all have to pick our battles, right? We only have so much time. People are busy. We have limited information and limited time to make decisions. Look, we all trust a lot of things. It's funny because, I'll be the first person to say, I'm one of those, don't trust the government, don't trust the government, question this, question that. At the same time, there are a lot of things that we just have to trust.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't trust other people, you cannot drive on a road. You are putting trust in multiple people right now. Every time you get on any form of transport, you are trusting. Even when you drive your own car, you are trusting that the people who made the car, you didn't pop open the hood and make sure everything is. No, you trust that it's gonna work. You trust the mechanic did their job. Trusting the food wasn't poisoned and the nutritional facts are what they say they are and the ingredients are what they say they are. So we implicitly trust all of the time. And that's good. The society couldn't function if everyone was just mistrusting everything all the time, right? Society wouldn't function. And so it's not like a binary thing. It's more like a sliding scale. I'm very trusting of people and of entities where I believe they are competent and they have, and they generally have good motives. I become less trusting if they are incompetent, or if they have proven themselves to be liars or to be deceitful, or if there's some very perverse incentive or ulterior motive that could make them be acting in a way that is not actually for the benefit of myself or others, but because they can make some money or they can gain a lot of power or something like this. So I think it's that combination of things. That's the reason. I think conflict avoidance, seeking social approval and status, being busy, not having time to always research everything. There's lots of reasons for it. And then of course there's the power of other influences. There's power of media, both traditional and social media. There's power of algorithms. And then there's the fact that people just have very different personalities. And so no two individuals are going to consistently make the same decisions or do the same analyses and reach the same conclusions in every area. Even with the people we love the most, who are closest to us, our tightest relationships, you still have debates, you still have arguments, you still reach different conclusions on things. You might think it's best to go this way, someone else thinks it's best to go this way. You might think it's best to vote this way, someone else thinks it's best to vote this way. It's not because, everyone thinks they're right, by definition almost, right? Most people, in most things, we think that we are the one who's correct. But mathematically, logically, we can't all be correct. So I think there's a degree of humility that comes in there as well. When I'm speaking, I have a manner of talking. I've done so many interviews and podcasts and so on. I have a manner of speaking that's quite, some people think it sounds quite authoritative and very assured because I'm a confident speaker. But with everything I say, I'm just sharing my ideas. I'm sharing my opinions. I put my hands up and I'm like, look, there could be something I said or many things I've said that are wrong or incorrect, or I don't have this is what I believe to be true at this moment in time. Based on my knowledge, based on my experience, based on my intuition. There's certain things where I can say, okay, I think this is pretty much a hard fact. And then there's other things like,
here's my interpretation.
This is my interpretation. I don't know. I haven't spent thousands of hours going deep on all these topics. You asked me a question, right? I don't have some PhD in psychology that can explain precisely why human beings behave in this way in this exact circumstance. But from my observation of however long I've lived on the planet, I can try to piece together why I think people do what they do.
Do you think we touched the bottom when it comes to society in general. Because usually what
Like,
happens...
does he mean Bitcoin or does he mean...
Because usually what happens when you touch the bottom, you bounce back, right?
Are you talking about the West? Or are you talking about... Because we're in Dubai right now.
Maybe let's focus on the West, because Dubai is a bubble, and I think it operates in a very different way.
Yeah. Depends on who we're talking about in the nation, and it depends on the issue. I think there are issues where the worst is behind us. So I think in general, the basket of nonsense ideas, which we colloquially now call wokeness, I think the peak of wokeness has passed. I think it peaked in around 2020 or 2021. And I think that even just seeing the results of the US election, there's been a strong mandate and message sent by the people that, okay, we don't want to keep moving in this direction. We want something different. We want a different set of policies, a different set of ideas. We are rejecting this one. So I think that's happened. I think there are other areas where there's going to be a lot more pain. I think some things are going to continue to bottom out, and there's a couple issues where I think actually this may not be recoverable.
They'll continue.
Yeah, it may not be recoverable. If you wanted me to give a big one that's in not just the West, but certainly all the West, and also just developed countries in general, I think there are some countries where their birth rate has fallen so low, it's not going to recover. I don't see how it can. And there's no historical precedent for it to do so. If you look at a country like South Korea.
Japan also is really bad.
Yeah,
right?
Japan's very low. South Korea is lower, right?
Oh, wow.
South Korea's birth rate is about 1/3 of what it needs to be just to maintain. So I think places like the UK and US, perhaps they can, they're about maintenance levels considered 2.1. I think UK, US are somewhere around 1.6, so maybe that can be recovered, but I think South Korea is down to like 0.7. And just based on the mathematics of that, I don't know how they can recover. So South Korea has probably peaked for all time of its human population, and its population is probably just going to keep shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And I don't know exactly what that means for the future. Maybe they'll be okay. Maybe it'll cause big problems. But yeah, I think there are certain things where it's just that's an example of something where it's like, yeah, I don't actually see a recovery coming. I think it's just going to get it's like a fire that's burning, and you know it's just burning out and shrinking and shrinking. And then there's other things, which I think are I'm very optimistic about. There's other things where I think there will be more pain. For example, as we record this right now, if we're just thinking about like the economic situation in general, all the markets, right? Every market, as far as I'm aware right now, there's lots of panic and selling and shorting and dumping, right? Like right now, that in everything, even in the stock market.
The stock, Tesla is down 15%, I think.
That's happening right now, and maybe that'll keep going. There'll be more pain for a few months, and in worst case, it could even be a few years. But something like that, I'm like, it'll recover. It's not going to just go and all these companies become bankrupt. And I don't think that's going to happen. With Bitcoin and the wider crypto market, maybe there will be more pain for a while, but it's not going to be permanent. It's not like, this is the end. 82,000, that's the end. It's all over, right? Like, that's silly. That's
I agree.
A few months ago, that was an all-time high. So.
Exactly. And also, sorry to jump in. Define pain, because for me, it's actually a happy moment because I can accumulate, right?
Accumulate more.
So it depends on, like you said earlier so well, it all depends on how you look at things. Like, if you want to go out and find good, you will find good. If you want to go out and find bad, you will find bad. Back in my days, my father would slap me if I was watching TV while having dinner, I was not allowed to do certain things, and it was a very different environment. Nowadays, I see specifically probably my generation, the ones that are now raising kids, they are passing on the iPad because they don't know how to raise them.
Yes.
So this is going to create a
path of least
consequence.
resistance.
Exactly. And this is going to apply on the next generation, because what happens is, like, I still feel my mother and my father education on me, so when I act and I operate, I'm still influenced by what they taught me. But then if I do have a child and I give him or her an iPad to just deal with it, path of least resistance, I'm kind of delaying an issue, because the child is 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, is going to become a father, a mother.
Yeah, it is concerning, and this is a new problem. None of our ancestors had to deal with this. The technology wasn't there, so it's not something we ever had to worry about. And now there are many things that are much easier for us than they were for than they were for our grandparents or great-grandparents or ancestors further on. But we also have some new challenges as well, and you've just brought one in. The whole internet, social media, smartphones, portable technology, all of that. I'd say, you know, you could throw AI in there as well, which is coming down the pipeline,
Big
robotics,
thing,
which is coming down the pipeline. We don't know. We're running a lot of experiments on billions of people right now, multi-generational experiences. And the truth is the early data is not looking good on the front of smartphones and social media when it comes to children. But we still don't really know the long-term impacts, especially the multi-generational impacts, because we're like the first to to experience this. So we'll see. But you know, humanity is resilient, and human beings have been through a lot of horrible things throughout history, and we keep on going. Bitcoin style, you know, block after block. It just it just keeps on moving. There's this attack, and there's FUD, and there's this, and there's dumps, and there's all of this, but humanity keeps ticking along. So long term, I'm an optimistic realist.
I think one of the main things to do is change your mindset. If you are positive about whatever you have in your surrounding, you will find it. But if you think everything is doom and gloom, well, guess what? Your reality will be sad and dark.
We've talked about a lot of things, but I always just encourage people to, you know, just do what you can do. I totally understand, and you know, I'm in the world of social commentary and cultural commentary and speaking on the things of the world and this issue and that issue and that. But on a day-to-day basis, my focus is on what I can do and what I can control. And I don't have the power to be pulling all of these levers to move this nation and that nation and the earth and all these millions and billions of people. I have power and control over myself and some influence around people who are near and dear to me. So my focus always is on that, and it should be the same for other people. Focus on yourself, health, wealth, faith, family, community, building up yourself, building up your, you know, if someone's listening to this and you do have children, or you're in that type of position of authority, like just do your best, do right by them, and try to put yourself in a good position, put them in a good position. That's really the best thing. You know, use your influence for good, and that's the best we can do. That's the best we can do. I believe in God, and you know, God wins in the end, and ultimately so many things are out of our power. They're not even in the hands of the people who we consider our leaders. So many things we just don't have control of, and that can be scary, but it can also bring some peace as well, because you focus your locus internally rather than just being in a constant state of fear and dread and anxiety and worry because that's happening and that's happening and that's happening. Like, that's going to happen. That's also going to keep on ticking. So
I agree. It's one of my favorite quotes from Gandhi that says, "Be the change you wish to see in the world," right? So
great quote.
Completely agree. Zuby, always a pleasure, man.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, as always, in the comments, in the description, you will find Zuby's links, social media, YouTube and everything. You should know by now who he is, but in case, go and check it out. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.